Growing up, no one really prepares you for how much of life is an illusion until reality hits. You don't grow up knowing that adults are still figuring things out, that happiness doesn't come from money or looks, but from peace of mind. You don't know that friends can turn strangers, and strangers can become your biggest support. You don't realize how fragile life is until someone you love disappears, not just physically, but emotionally. You don't realize how much pain people hide behind smiles, or how many smiles are just masks for survival. You don't know that healing isn't a one-time event, but a lifelong process, and that success isn't as glamorous as it looks. It's mostly discipline, isolation, and self-doubt you learn to dance with. You don't grow up knowing that peace costs letting go of things you once prayed to keep, or that growing up means losing parts of yourself you thought you'd always need. The real shock is that life doesn't wait for you to be ready. It just keeps happening, forcing you to grow in silence, rebuild in private, and learn truths that no one warned you about. Funny thing about growing up, you think adults have it all figured out until you become one and realize everyone's just winging it with confidence. Nobody tells you that school teaches you how to pass exams, not how to survive emotions, rent, or heartbreak. You grow up thinking life has stages, but turns out it's just one long freestyle with unexpected plot twists. You don't know that happiness is mostly maintenance work, coffee, boundaries, and avoiding people who drain your Wi-Fi and energy at the same time. You think love is all butterflies until you meet communication issues and silent treatment. You don't grow up knowing that your parents were also scared, your teachers were tired, and adulthood is basically Googling everything while pretending you don't. Reality hits when you realize success doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like, finally one thing went right today. And the biggest shock? No one really knows what they're doing. Some are just better at faking calm faces. You don't grow up knowing that silence speaks louder than words, or that peace is more expensive than luxury. Nobody tells you that motivation expires faster than milk, and discipline is the only thing that keeps you from falling apart. You think people mature with age, it turns out some just get better at hiding their chaos. You don't grow up knowing that family isn't always blood, and I'm fine is usually code for I'm barely hanging on. You imagine adults living stress-free lives until you realize everyone's just trying not to cry during work emails. You don't know that kindness has limits and self-respect starts where people's comfort ends. You thought life had a clear storyline, but in reality, it's mostly plot holes, character development, and the occasional Wi-Fi outage. The real shock: life doesn't reward good intentions. It rewards consistency, timing, and a bit of luck, which no one ever teaches you how to find. Growing up differently by facts, the shock of real life, and what that sentence really means. People start from wildly different places, not just emotionally, but materially, socially, and neurologically. When those people hit society, it often feels like being handed the instruction manual for life, in a language you've never studied. Core facts about different upbringings. Starting lines vary. Income, nutrition, safety, and early education create measurable differences in opportunity long before adulthood. Skill exposure matters. Kids learn emotional regulation, communication, and executive skills from caregivers. Uneven exposure to uneven readiness. Language and cognitive load differ. The amount and variety of language and problem-solving practice at home affects later learning speed and confidence. Trauma leaves marks. Adverse experiences change stress responses and attention, not moral failure, physiological consequences. Cultural scripts shape choices. Different communities teach different rules about risk, authority, and what success should look like. Social capital is real. Knowing how to ask, who to ask, and having people who will vouch for you opens doors that credentials alone sometimes don't. Education quality is not uniform. Two diplomas can mean very different things depending on school resources and networks. Neurodiversity and learning differences matter. Brains learn and perform differently. Standard systems often penalize difference rather than adapt. Timing of support is powerful. Early interventions, mentors, stable housing, healthcare, produce outsized benefits later. Expectation gaps affect behavior. If you grew up told to be invisible, acting boldly in society feels like an achievement, not a choice. What entering reality looks like and why it shocks. Invisible rules, workplace etiquette, networking norms, and bureaucratic processes are rarely taught explicitly. First encounters feel like a hidden exam. Credentialism versus competence. Society often uses credentials as shortcuts. Competence can be overlooked if you don't signal in the expected way. Emotional labor taxed. Interacting with systems or gatekeepers requires energy. People from resource-poor backgrounds pay more of that cost. Mismatched expectations. You may have been taught different values, community first, for example, that collide with individualistic institutional incentives. Delayed feedback. Systems are slow. Learning takes longer when mistakes are costly. Bills, eviction, lost job. So trial and error isn't easily affordable. Life doesn't care until you care enough. A logical unpacking. Literal meaning, systems, markets, institutions, bureaucracy are indifferent. They operate on rules, incentives, and resource flows, not empathy. Not the same as blame. Saying life doesn't care is not a moral judgment about individuals. It's a structural observation. Some systems will fail you even if you try hard. Where agency matters, individual effort, strategy, and persistence change outcomes within those systems, but only up to the limits set by access and context. So the truth is twofold. Systems are indifferent, and your response within those systems materially alters what happens to you. Both statements are true, and neither is sufficient alone. Practical, logical moves to bridge the gap. Map the gaps. List what you were never taught, taxes, resumes, workplace norms, and prioritize the top 3 to learn first. Convert informal skills into signals. If you've led in community settings, learn to frame those experiences on a CV or in interviews. Micro-credential and practice. Short courses, apprenticeships, or volunteer roles produce demonstrable skills faster than vague plans. Build social capital intentionally. Find one mentor, one peer group, and one community resource. Relationships scale opportunity. Protect your energy. Routine. Emotional regulation, sleep, boundaries, small rituals, makes learning and networking possible. Iterate in public. Small, visible wins, a side project, a public post. Create proof of competence and attract help. Advocate collectively. Individual fixes help, but systemic change, education funding, accessible mental health reduces the gap for everyone. If you're ready to get organized and take control of your days, visit my website. I've created a range of printable planners designed to help you stay focused, track your goals, and bring structure to your life. Some planners are completely free to download, so you can start planning right away. Whether it's your budget, your daily tasks, or your creative projects, there's something made just for you. Visit the first link in the video description to get yours and start planning your days with purpose and clarity.